Yep. Good afternoon. It's great to be joined today by Secretary of Interior Doug Burgum, Idaho Governor, Wyoming Governor Mark Gordon for a long-awaited announcement. 50 years ago, our states faced a challenge to restore grizzly populations and prevent extinction of this iconic American species. Thanks to the work and sacrifice of Montana Fish, Wildlife and Parks, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and many Montanans over decades, we've been successful. In fact, the grizzly bear recovery story is one of America's greatest conservation successes. When grizzlies were listed in 1975, there were only a few hundred left in the lower 48. Today, there are more than 2,000 grizzly bears the species has recovered. With this success has come a challenge. Bears have expanded into new areas and conflicts have increased with farmers, ranchers, recreationalists, and residents. Over the last several years, we've all heard of the stories of these encounters. A mom in Shoto who is afraid to let her kids play at the local park. Bears actually frequenting people's backyards and requiring homeowners to put bars over their windows. Or a rancher in Lewistown or Stanford who has lost livestock. As Montanans have faced these challenges, specialists at the Montana Fish, Wildlife and Parks have been there to support them, guided by and the public to address conflicts and increase safety and education in bear country. That's why over the last several years we've had a steady message for our federal partners. Montana is ready to have full authority to manage grizzly bears. Today, I am proud to stand with these partners to announce that the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is proposing to do just that, to return management of the grizzly bear back to the states. Under the leadership of Secretary Burgum, President Trump, our concerns have been heard, and they recognize that decisions should be made close to the people, affected by them as possible. The state wildlife managers have experience, expertise, local knowledge, and community relationships to make them best suited to do the daily work required to manage this population using the best available scientific information. Where we stand right now, we're at the heart of the intersection of over 1,000 grizzly bears, encompassing habitat in Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming. That's why I'm pleased to be joined today by fellow Governor Brad Little and Mark Gordon to share this success. Governor Little, what would you like to add?
Thank you, Governor. I really don't have much to add, but it is about management. Our collective fish and game managers are professional wildlife managers. That's what they do. As we've seen, and I've been around the entire time since 1975, being involved in my other job, representing ranchers, and of course in Idaho, we've got them in the very far north of Idaho, in the very far southeast of Idaho. We continue to see the proliferation and the success. You know, the Endangered Species Act is supposed to recover species. We're here today to celebrate the recovery of the species, and the next logical step is to turn a species that was originally listed as endangered into one that we can manage better, because our wildlife managers manage the ungulates. They manage all the problems. it's just more than fitting and proper that the state wildlife management agencies and all three of our states work together on a lot of cross-boundary wildlife issues, whether it's management, whether it's ungulate populations, fill in the blank. This is the right thing to do for this part of the country, and it's the right thing to do for the United States of America. So I couldn't be happier to be here. With that, one of my fellow governors, all four of us have been involved in the Western Governors, where we've been talking about this ad infinitum time. So this is a glorious day, and we're delighted to be here with the Secretary who fully understands the magnitude of this issue. Governor Gordon.
Governor Gianforte, Governor Little, I like to call you Governor Burgum, but I know Secretary is the right name. Members of your wildlife agency and your wildlife agency, it's great to be here. And I want to thank everybody for showing up today. You know, I have been worried about this bear since 1975, and I can remember Steve Mealy, who was a bear biologist back in 1979, 80, talking about this bear, 136 bears at that point. So as I was thinking about what to say today, I was thinking, you know, the endangered species list is not a Dean's list. Let me say that again. It's not a Dean's list. And why I say that is it's time that this bear graduates. It has excelled in its recovery. You've heard over 2,000 bears. We have over 1,000 bears alone in Wyoming. And it is important to recognize when success happens. It's something the Western Governors have talked about for a long time. And more importantly, this bear was delisted twice before. 2007 under the Obama administration, 2017 under the Trump administration. And each time it's been put back on this academic probation list. As I said, it's time it graduates. This is a success story. Redouble our efforts to make sure that this act does what it was intended to do, to recover a species. And it has done that. So I really want to thank the governors here because we've cooperated over the last several years. Wyoming alone has spent since 1977 over $67 million on this bear. Each of our wildlife services have already done the lion's share of management on this bear to help recovery. And you've heard Governor Gianforte talk about the impacts that have happened. When you have bears showing up in corn mazes, it means that they are recovered. So it is my honor now to talk about my good friend, Secretary Burgum. He is an entrepreneur, a rancher, and now he's Secretary of the Interior. In my mind, there's no one more fit for this position, hailing as he does from North Dakota, which, as you'll know, is Teddy Roosevelt's conservation of cradle of conservation. He is all of that. But I have to say, more importantly, I have spent mornings on horseback with this gentleman and evenings around the campfire. I know where his heart is. I know it's about this American country and our North American model of conservation management. It is my honor to introduce Secretary Doug Burgum.
Thank you, Mark, and thank all of you for being here today. Thank you, Governor Little, for hosting, Governor Gianforte for hosting. Thank you, Governor Little, for coming over from Idaho. When I look at this incredible background, we could tell you that we're in Idaho, Wyoming, or Montana. We could not say we're here for you in North Dakota. Wouldn't be here, but the wind would be there. The wind would be there. That would be part of the North Dakota event. But I do want to say it is a great honor to be here today, and today is a day of gratitude, and it's a day of celebration. And let me just start with gratitude for a group of people that have, as Mark just talked about, what's going on in Idaho, what's going on in Montana, it's going on in Wyoming, it's going on all over the country. The people that contribute the most to conservation that's in habitat, whether that's programs, whether it's science, it's coming through hunters and anglers. It's the people that are out there that care about this wildlife. And it's also about the farmers and ranchers, the trades, and the people that, working families that work their lands. And one thing I told this governor was that I never met somebody from Washington, D.C. that cared more about the land, the water, and the wildlife in a state than the people that live there, often for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 generations. And so today it's a day of gratitude for all of these people that care deeply about where they live and the wildlife and the quality of the environment around them. But it's also a day of celebration because this is the endangered species list. We have to, as a nation, celebrate when species can come off the endangered species list, not celebrate when they go on. If they go on, that means we're doing something wrong. If they go off, that means we've got something to celebrate. And today, this is, as Governor Gianforte said, this is one of the great recovery stories in America, is this incredible, majestic grizzly bear. So it's exciting that we're able today to announce what's technically called the 4D rule, but this is the step to begin moving the management of the grizzly bear, now recovered, back to the states. And as was noted, the states are managing all manner of wildlife in their states, not just a single species, and they have an opportunity to look holistically across this and do what's needed. So this is about common sense. It's about smart management. It's about all the things that these common sense, smart governors do every day. And again, along with their state wildlife professionals. One of those state wildlife professionals who spent several decades working on this was Brian Nesbitt, working for Governor Gordon in Wyoming. How pleased am I that he came out of retirement to come and lead U.S. Fish and Wildlife. He's down here to my right in the brown check shirt. He's going to be available for questions. But Brian certainly understands that not just the state perspective, but he understands the grizzly bear as well as anybody who's ever held the position of being the director of U.S. Fish and Wildlife. And I want to just say thanks to him right now as well. But whether it's the ranchers or sportsmen, the tribes, the landowners, local communities that have all contributed to this, we have a lot of people to share gratitude. And again, of course, with these governors running their states so well, 3 of the best run states in the country right here in the Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, all of them prospering, all of them thriving under common sense leadership, it makes a ton of sense to give the states the flexibility to manage this. So as we're closing out here, these guys are helping because if I lose my speech, then it's going to be an hour long. Be the opposite if I can stay on track here. But I do want to say also to the men and women that work in the state wildlife biology areas for Montana, Wyoming, and Idaho, thank you to all of you, because we know there's a bunch of talented people. They bring local knowledge, they bring local expertise, and decades of experience every day. And again, like me, President Trump believes that the people that are closest to the land, closest to the wildlife you're protecting, should be the closest to providing those solutions. And so with that, again, it's not often you have a federal government coming and making an announcement how we're going to give up power at the federal level, but that's exactly what's going on today, and that's the right move that moves some of these responsibilities from the Fed back to the states that are in the best position to manage all that. So again, this is a congratulations to all the sportsmen, it's congratulations to the leadership of the 3 governors that are on state, and congratulations to all the people over the last 50 years in Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho that have worked so hard to be part of this incredible success story. So thank you all for being here. I'm going to turn it back over to Greg, and then we'll take some questions, including for Brian as well. Thank you, and let's give it up for these 3 governors. Well deserving to be able to take over this responsibility.
Thank you. Thank you, governors. Thank you, Doug. I really appreciate your recognition and confidence in the states for saying we can get this done. As you heard here, the goal of the Endangered Species Act is recovery. Today that recovery is being recognized. Recovery was never the end of the story, though, for this iconic species. The next chapter is about stewardship. State management does not mean the work is over. In many ways, it means the work becomes even more important. I want to thank everybody for being here today, and with that, we'll open it up for some questions. I think Caitlin's going to direct here.
this does, this is a rule under Section 4 of the Endangered Species Act called a 4D rule. It does not change the listing status of the bear, but it does encompass all grizzly bears in the lower 48. Tell me your second question again, please.
Under this 4D rule, we do not have the authority to have a hunting season. Okay, thank you, everybody.
Can I say one? I'd like to say one closing comment on the Endangered Species Act, which is when I had an opportunity to take this job as Secretary of Interior, I had a simple question. If we're supposed to celebrate as a nation when things come off, how many of the species that have ever gone on have come off? The answer was 3%. So this rule's been around for 50 years. 97% of the time they don't come off. So one thing, this is a reason to celebrate because we're here where we're moving responsibility back to the states, not delisting, but moving responsibility back to the states because of the Great Recovery. But number two, it tells us that what we've been doing hasn't been working, because if you had a 97% fail rate, then there's probably something wrong. So we have to take a look at how we're doing this thing as a country and get out of this framework that we're celebrating when things go on, and we got to work together to make sure that we have more species that are coming off, because too often the Endangered Species Act has been weaponized to stop things from happening as opposed to helping recovery, which is what it was originally meant to do. And I know that in partnership with these states, and of course the federal government is still a partner here. We've got Yellowstone National Park right next door, Grand Teton National Park. So we've got the National Park Service, we've got BLM land, U.S. Forest Service land. So we're going to continue to work in partnership. But again, handing the reins over for management to the states makes complete, total common sense. And we just keep moving in the right direction, and maybe we'll all be together celebrating more recoveries and more species and working together going forward. Thank you all for being here, and thank you.